Today, we're exploring a fascinating tale from the Jātaka collection, a story known as the Talkative Tortoise. It's a classic that has been told and retold for centuries, and for a very good reason. It's all about friendship, clever ideas, and the crucial lesson of knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. So, get comfortable, and let's travel back in time to a peaceful pond nestled deep within a lush, green forest. In this pond lived a very special tortoise. Now, this wasn't just any tortoise. He was incredibly wise, filled with knowledge from years of observing the world from his serene home. He knew the secrets of the forest, the language of the rustling leaves, and the stories carried by the wind. But he had one tiny little problem. He absolutely loved to talk. And I mean, he loved it. From sunrise to sunset, you could hear his cheerful voice echoing across the water. He would share stories with the dragonflies, debate with the frogs, and offer advice to any fish that would listen. His heart was as big as his vocabulary, and he was a friend to all the creatures in the pond. Among all his friends, his two closest companions were a pair of magnificent geese. These geese were world travelers, and every year, they would make a special stop at the tortoise's pond just to visit him. They would spend hours listening to his endless tales, and in return, they would share their own adventures from the distant lands they had seen. They told him about towering mountains that touched the clouds, vast oceans that stretched to the horizon, and bustling cities filled with strange and wonderful sights. Their friendship was a beautiful balance of the tortoise's grounded wisdom and the geese's worldly experience. They were the best of friends, and their bond seemed unbreakable. But one year, a shadow fell over their happy little world. The sun beat down relentlessly, day after day, week after week. The rains never came. A terrible drought gripped the land. And the tortoise's beautiful pond, once brimming with life, began to shrink. The water level dropped lower and lower, until the cool, clear pond became little more than a muddy puddle. The lily pads withered, the fish struggled to find water deep enough to swim in, and a sense of desperation filled the air. The once vibrant home of our talkative tortoise was slowly dying. The two geese, with their ability to fly, knew they had to leave. They had heard whispers on the wind of a great lake, far away in the Himalayas. A lake so deep and vast that it never ran dry. It was a paradise filled with crystal-clear water and an abundance of food. They knew they had to go there to survive. But the thought of leaving their dear friend, the tortoise, behind was unbearable. They couldn't imagine their journeys without his wisdom and his stories waiting for them. So, they went to him, their hearts heavy, to share the grim news and to say what they feared would be their final goodbye. The tortoise listened as his friends described the faraway lake. His heart ached at the thought of being left behind in the baking mud, but he also knew they had no choice. As the geese prepared to leave, a wave of sadness washed over him. "My dear friends," he said, his voice unusually quiet, "must you go? What will I do here, all alone? This mud will soon be as hard as rock, and I will perish." The geese looked at each other, their eyes filled with sorrow. They couldn't bear to abandon him. They were determined to find a way, any way, to take their friend with them. They put their heads together, brainstorming, thinking, searching for a solution to an impossible problem. A tortoise, after all, cannot fly. After much thought, one of the geese suddenly had a brilliant idea. It was a risky plan, but it was their only hope. He explained it to the others. "We will find a strong, sturdy stick," he said. "You, our dear tortoise, will bite down firmly on the middle of the stick with your strong jaws. Then, my brother and I will each take one end of the stick in our beaks. Together, we will lift you into the air and fly you all the way to the Great Lake." It was an ingenious plan, a testament to their deep friendship and clever thinking. The tortoise's eyes lit up with hope. He could picture it already, soaring through the sky, a feeling he had only ever dreamed of. With the plan set, the geese flew off and quickly returned with a perfect stick, strong and smooth. They positioned themselves, ready for the incredible journey. But before they took flight, they gave their friend a very, very important warning. They looked him straight in the eye and said, with the utmost seriousness, "Listen carefully, our friend. This will only work if you keep your mouth firmly shut. No matter what happens, no matter what you see or hear, you must not say a single word. Do not open your mouth to talk. If you do, you will lose your grip, and you will fall. Do you understand? Your life depends on your silence." The tortoise, usually so eager to chat, nodded in solemn agreement. He understood the gravity of the situation. He clamped his powerful jaws onto the center of the stick, determined to stay silent. And so, their amazing journey began. The two geese beat their mighty wings, and with a great heave, they lifted off the ground. For the first time in his life, the tortoise was flying. It was more incredible than he could have ever imagined. He saw his shrinking pond become a tiny speck below. He soared over the forest canopy, looking down on the tops of trees he had only ever seen from the bottom. The world opened up beneath him in a breathtaking panorama. He flew over rolling hills, winding rivers, and vast plains. The wind rushed past him, and he felt a sense of freedom he had never known. He was so overwhelmed with joy and wonder that he completely forgot his urge to talk. He just held on, mesmerized by the view. After flying for some time, they passed over a small village. Down below, a group of children were playing in the street. They looked up and saw the most peculiar sight: two geese carrying a tortoise on a stick. They had never seen anything like it. They stopped their games, pointed up at the sky, and began to shout and laugh. "Look! Look at that!" one of them yelled. "Two birds are carrying a turtle like he's a piece of luggage." Another one chimed in. "What a silly-looking turtle, getting a free ride from his friends." Their taunts and laughter drifted up to the tortoise. He could hear every word clearly. Now, our tortoise was not only talkative, he was also a little bit proud. Hearing the children mock him made his blood boil. How dare they? They didn't understand the brilliance of the plan or the depth of his friendship with the geese. They just saw a silly-looking turtle. His first instinct, the one he had followed his entire life, was to respond. He wanted to shout down at them, to tell them off, to explain that he was not silly, but clever. He wanted to set them straight with a sharp, witty retort. He completely forgot the geese's stern warning. He forgot the danger. He forgot that his life depended on his silence. Anger and pride clouded his judgment. In that single, fateful moment of fury, the tortoise opened his mouth. He was about to yell, "What business is it of yours if my friends carry me?" But before a single sound could escape, the instant his jaws loosened their grip, it was all over. The stick slipped from his mouth. He was no longer connected to his friends. No longer soaring through the sky. He was falling. The wind whistled past him as he tumbled through the air. Down, down, down. He saw the village rushing up to meet him. He saw the shocked faces of the children. and in that terrifying descent, he finally understood his mistake. He had let his inability to control his tongue lead to his downfall. The tortoise crashed to the ground in the middle of the village courtyard, and his shell, the very thing that was meant to protect him, was shattered. The geese, circling high above, could only watch in horror and grief as their friend paid the ultimate price for a moment of weakness. The story of the talkative tortoise ends there, with a powerful and somber lesson. It teaches us that while speech can be a gift, silence can be a shield. There is a time to share our wisdom and a time to hold our tongue. As one of the Jātaka verses says, the tortoise brought about his own death by opening his mouth to speak. He was held fast by the stick, but by his own words, he was undone. It's a timeless reminder that sometimes, the wisest thing we can say is nothing at all. Thank you so much for joining me for this story today. It's a heavy one, but it's filled with so much to think about. And if you enjoyed this story and want to explore more ancient wisdom with us,